All right, we're sitting here, just wrapped up the Tombigbee River Elite Series event. Finished the tournament in 18th place, so really good tournament for me. Got better throughout the entire event. So, I'll kind of start off with the Tombigbee River itself. Tough fishery, hard to catch a better quality fish, better quality being 2.5 pounds or better. It seemed like you could catch a decent amount of 2-pounders, but that 2.5 or better was hard to come by. In practice, I had a decent practice. I ended up locking down in the tournament. So this tournament, you can fish either where we're out of, or you could lock up twice or lock down twice, was kind of what I gathered, to have the amount of fishing time that you had to have. So I opted to lock in this tournament. And caught my fish doing that. That's where I practiced. I felt like I had a better chance of just catching, better quality fish and not seeing as many boats. I knew guys were going to catch them at the boat ramp. It's kind of a known area on this place. People catch them there. But I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I opted to lock. Practiced over there. Practice was decent for me. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. I got a decent amount of bites. And, kind of did that for the tournament, based that off practice. I didn't go through an area and catch all the fish necessarily. I shook some off and things like that. Bait-wise, in practice and the tournament, you guys know me. I love the striking structure jig. Blue craw paired with a blue craw menace trailer from striking as well. 3/8 ounce structure jig, that is. And that's my staple. That's my go-to. I weighed 14 out of my 15 fish on that structure jig this week. One of my other fish I ended up catching by the ramp just on a swim jig. But 14 of those 15 fish came on that striking structure jig. Flipping it up shallow, shallow. We're talking 8 to 1.5 feet of water at times. Very shallow, 8 inches, I mean. Very, very shallow these fish were. They would boil, make wakes. Stir up the bottom when they would bite it. They were so shallow. So fast forwarding to the tournament. Day one, I opted to lock down right away. Started fishing and caught, I believe, no, let's back up a little bit. My first bite on day number 1, I lose. And it was the biggest fish I'd seen all week, probably a 3 to 3.5 pounder, and I lost that fish. I was by myself. I didn't have a marshal, so I was trying to keep myself composed throughout the day. Going on from that, I ended up catching the limit. Caught some decent fish that day. And right at the end of the day, I end up catching my biggest fish. It ends up being a 3-pounder. That was my biggest fish for that first day. I caught that fish 30 minutes before I had to head back to the lock. So that was huge. Saved my day. Gave me, I believe, 10 pounds and an ounce. And in between that 3-pounder late and the 3-pounder I lost in the morning was just a lot of 1.5-pounders to 2-pounders. Caught a limit. That was the goal. Got back in. Wrapped up day number 1. Day number 2, we opted to start by the ramp. Was not a good call on my part. Never had a bite. For the first 2 hours. Then we called the Bassmaster, ended up locking down to our fish, got to our fish, and ended up started to catch them pretty quickly, actually. I got a limit fairly quickly on that day number 2, and after my first, I think, 2 or 3 keepers that were, just 14.5 inches, I caught the key kicker that I needed. It was just over 3.5 pounds. And that one really sealed my weight for that day, at that given time. That 3.5-pounder was huge for me. Just moving forward, having confidence in that area that I was fishing, because I wasn't catching a lot of, those quality bites in there. And then, kind of fast forwarding off of that, we catch a couple decent fish after that 3.5-pounder. I lose another good one. Never really got a great look at it. Had me hung up on just a little twig, something like that. Lost a lot of fish this week. They were just biting it really weird. Everybody lost fish this week. It was just kind of the name of the game. So then, we get back to the lock. We lock back through. I'm going to fish by the ramp. I actually have an hour to fish back by the ramp because I had to go through the lock at 3 o'clock. So we had an hour to fish by the ramp, and I end up making my biggest call of the day. I caught, I believe that it was about a 3 1/4 pound fish. That one I did get on the swim jig, and it was right next to the boat ramp, a little ways from the boat ramp, but close to the boat ramp. And that fish solidified my 47th place after day number 2 when I come in. I had just under 13 pounds, I believe 12 pounds and 11 ounces. And yeah, that solidified my top 50. So I get to go out and fish on day number 3. So, you know, getting out day number 3, you know, I don't have a long day. I'm doing at 3:15. Didn't have success fishing by the boat ramp in the morning, so I opted to lock right away and go to my fish that I had been fishing for the entire tournament. Now, a lot of other guys had been in there too. I figured those fish were really beat up. Honestly, I was just hoping to catch 10 pounds, was kind of my plan. Little did I know I was in for a huge surprise this day. Caught a keeper right off the bat, just a little guy. Right after that, I catch one a little bit bigger. It was like a 2 1/4, which I hadn't really seen a lot of those fish, you know, throughout the week. So I catch that 2 1/4, and I'm like, all right, we'll get settled in here. You know, I'm catching fish, which is good. I thought a lot of the fish would be burned by this point. I didn't really know what to expect. My third fish of the day ended up being the giant kicker that I needed to really just top things off for the day. It was an almost 5-pounder. You guys will see here, I get pretty fired up about this fish.
Goodness gracious. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Look at that. Structure jig in the snout. Yes. Gosh. That gets me fired up right there. Whew. Almost a 5. 480.
And yeah, it was awesome. I mean, a 5-pound bite on this body of water goes so far. So I catch that fish, keep running new water, and I just get in a rhythm. I catch a 2 3/4. I catch another 2 3/4. You know, and I gradually, you know, my bag just keeps growing and growing and growing. I get around 15 pounds at this point. And I come back to the lock back through, come in right by the boat ramp yet again and catch another 3-pounder to call it a 2-pounder I had to give me almost 16 pounds on the day. I believe 15 3/4. So it was a huge day for me. Jumped all the way up from 47th to 18th place in the tournament. Got some huge points. Again, I can't say enough about the bait I caught him on. The striking structure jig is just an absolute fish catcher. 14 of my 15 bass this week. Wish we were fishing in the top 10 on day number 4. You know, that one key 3-something pounder first thing in the morning kind of caught me off guard. Tried to boat flip and it came off. You know, that's going to cost me a top 10 in this tournament, but I can't complain. Going from, I believe, in the 70s to the 40s to top 20, you can't complain about that, especially fishing against these guys. So that's pretty much it. Wrapping up the Tombigbee. A lot of stumps, hard to get around, burned a lot of gas. The Nitro Mercury did flawless. All the Garmin stuff was flawless. The Force Pro trolling motor, put that thing through the ringer this week and it's holding up strong. But as far as the conditions goes for this tournament, we had some pretty good conditions, to be honest. Other than this morning, it was a little windy and a little chilly, but for the most part, I mean, I wore my Whitewater Prevail pants all day and the Rays Sun hoodie pretty much most of the time. I mean, you really didn't need much more than that out here. 80-degree weather in March in Mississippi. You can't beat it. We're checking out here from the Tombigbee, ready to get after it at the next elite event on the Arkansas River.